This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green. We're doing a rare on-scene Culture Crawl today, actually taped at Jazz Under the Stars on Thursday night because one of our performers from last week with Local on the 8s is one of our performers for next week with the Beaker brothers. Say hi to Steve Grismore.
Hi everybody, how's it going?
Of course, Steve really needs no introduction from me. He's, of course, a faculty member at the University of Iowa, founding member of Orquesta Alta Maiz, his Grismore CA group, and dozens of others, founder of the Iowa City Jazz Festival, and the list goes on and on. You've got two, before we talk about the Beakers, you've got two kind of, I'd almost say, kind of diametrically opposed performances as a kind of hitting all of your different facets here at Jazz Under the Stars this year.
Yeah.
Local on the 8s and then the Beakers. So talk for just a second about Local on the 8s. And of course, you I'm sure heard that I've been calling this the group that's 5 young guys and one really hip older dude.
I had that, yes, sent to me. Yes, I did see that. And I thank you for the nice reference there. Hip old dude. I'm that's probably not even true.
That's the best.
I'm old and I'm a dude, but I don't know how hip I am. These guys make me hipper. That's the thing.
Well, it's the best any of us can hope for.
For the 20 and 30-year-old crowd, it's been a lot of fun, and they kind of, well, it's been fun. Brett brings great ideas to this group, and he has an idea of what he wants to play musically, and I like all of the music. It's but he has his sensibility of who he wants to do, like Snarky Puppy and whoever, White Hargrove and on and on and on. But it is a really fun group, and it's got a real hard groove, and it's yet there's a lot of good improv that goes on with it. So it's a really fun kind of thing. It's kind of a fusion group for for my age, talking about the music, but because it has that groove, but it also has the jazz sensibility, so it's really nice. Well,
it was a great night. What a hot, smoking set. So I'm glad that you're going to get a few days rest before we bring you back with the Beaker brothers.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the Beaker brothers. I have told the story a couple of times that it's kind of been a long, strange trip to get the Beaker brothers to Jazz Under the Stars. I discovered that the worst thing for you to do if you want to come to Jazz Under the Stars is be in a group made of Dennis Green's friends playing the music that Dennis grew up with. That is just a recipe for disaster.
Don't do that.
Because for many years I said, well, this is my favorite. This is my favorite stuff, but I can't subject everyone to that just because I love it.
Just because you like it.
But eventually I just decided to get over myself.
Yeah. And, well, we really appreciate being here.
And
it's great fun,
Well, and tell me about how this group came together, because it really is a case of you guys playing and revisiting the music that got you interested in music to start with.
Yeah, I wanted to do this for quite a while, and I've been talking to Jim Dreyer, and of course I was friends with all the other guys, but we were trying to figure out who to have in the band and how to do it and what music to play, and so we actually had some different people at first that we invited to play, and then the personnel changed slightly. Actually, at the first meeting we had Tim Razor and Paul Cunliffe and Schultz and me and Jim, and then of course Tim decided not to do it. Unfortunately, we've lost him in the interim. But we also Paul Cunliffe decided that he maybe was a little busy, so we got Dan Hummel to fill in for him. So we've kind of, and then Ed became our bass player, figuring that all out. So, and the rule was the only thing we said is you had to be at least 50 to join the band. So Ed was just turned 50 when we started rehearsing. And so it was okay, which kind of made me mad because I was the baby in the group. I was 51.
Except
and then he turned 50, so it was like, man. And we've been together 8 years, so now the joke is you have to be 60 before you can quit. So, we've got a little time left here. So I'm 59, it's 58. Man, I tell you, time flies.
It does. It just seems like yesterday, the first time I saw you guys at a Friday night concert series.
And the premise of the name comes from the idea of Clyde Clifford and Beaker Street, which was a great radio show back in the late 60s, early 70s. I always had an impression that it ran later, but it ran from I'm going to make this up, 66 or 7 to 72.
Okay.
I thought it kept going, but it stopped earlier than I thought.
I thought it was in the mid-70s too, but okay.
I didn't quite, the history of it. And it's interesting because I do remember I know in 1970 I was listening to it. And I used to go to bed at night as a junior high, you know, and have headphones on. I could listen to the radio. And the show came out at 11 at night, went till 1 in the morning. No, take that back. 11 at night till 2 in the morning. And then on Saturday nights, they had what they called Beaker Theater, which was a radio show, which was really fun. And so, you know, I could lay there and listen to that. And my parents never knew how late I stayed up half the time anyway. So, I mean, from that. Yeah.
And of course, the station that it was on, KAAY, was what they called one of the old clear channel stations.
It was a clear channel station,
which meant that if you could hear it all over the country at certain times of the night. So it was one of those few...
Came out of Little Rock.
Yeah, it came out of Little Rock. It was one of those few national experiences where you can say Beaker Street to people of a certain age from all over the United States, and they will know what you're talking about.
I think it kind of ran, I don't know how far east and west, but definitely up through the Midwest, all the way from Mexico to Canada, there was this, it ran, you know, and you might know more about that than I do, but it was, yeah, a lot of people heard it.
And this was the first station that played Little Feat, that played Santana.
All the, what was AM radio.
And it was on AM radio.
But he made it like it was FM, because he played long play stuff. Even whole albums, you know, and it was amazing, the stuff you could hear on it. It was incredible. And of course he had his kind of a space music, kind of like, you know, hippie music on the breaks, kind of talking like he might have been partaking in something a little bit. He had this vibe going on, and then he would talk about local concerts and say, yeah, come down here, REO Speedwagon down here at the something theater, you know, and then there, you know, Styx is going to be coming next, you know, and all these rockers from that time period. And then he talking about going to the Little Red Barn to buy your bandanas and your whatever. And, you know, it was just a great show. And you can get it on, there are a lot of, what do you call it?
Archives?
Yeah, podcasts. They've got a lot of it on those if you look it up on iTunes or wherever.
Now, I've had the conversation with Jim Dreyer, who's a member of the band, many times, that the music of Santana, when he first heard Santana, that was what kindled his interest in Latin music, of course, and that's been the foundation of his career.
I can understand that.
Who for you, when you first were listening, you know, what artists and what groups were the ones that just really flipped the switch for you?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Well, you know, it's funny. I started pretty young, and there was actually a picture on my website of a band I was in 1967. When I was in 6th grade.
I was 3.
I was 12 years old or something like that. And so I played a lot of the pop music, you know, the Beatles and the Monkees and all that kind of stuff. But as we started getting more serious, you know, it was more of the power trio, like the Cream, you know, the Led Zeppelin, all those groups. But when I hit high school, the Allman Brothers were really a huge influence, and that's why we play a lot of their stuff. I actually saw the Allman Brothers twice in the Field House in Iowa City, 72 and 74, I believe it was. And unfortunately, each time somebody had just died. And as I think back, it was strange because I looked it up online, and the concert I saw in 72, Duane Allman was gone. And that group actually played for a while as a quintet, and I didn't remember that. And then I saw him again after Barry Oakley had passed, and they had added, you know, the new keyboard and bass player. And that was a great band as well. But that, you know, so there are these different configurations, but I never saw the original whole group with Duane. But, you know, that was really a big influence on all of us, that kind of music. Country rock, you know, good stuff.
One of the most fun things about this band, and not to blow your head up too much, but between you and Dan Bernstein, you know, when you play Jessica or something by the Allman Brothers, it's right in the pocket, and then you turn around and play like Clapton 3 songs later. I mean, one of the things that you guys do really well is really pay tribute to those particular guitar sounds, because the sound of those, you know, those guys on guitar, that was really what made the band. That was what made each band sound different. I mean, you'd never confuse Duane Allman with Eric Clapton.
No, they're very unique players. Well, and Carlos Santana for that matter. You know, that whole vibe. Yeah, we all grew up listening to those people, and that's what we were influenced by it. And you know, the great thing about, I have to say this too, and it's okay to have as a Jazz Under the Stars, and the reason I would say is that, for instance, I've read both My Cross to Bear and then Skydog in the last year, which is Duane Allman and Greg. Well, Skydog's about Duane Allman, and My Cross to Bear is Greg Allman's biography. They were very influenced by jazz players, and J-Mo, the black drummer in the band, was very influenced by jazz. And there was a time when they were talking about Miles and Coltrane and all these people, and they would open up and have these jams, and not that they played jazz, but they really, you know, as a kid, it was a vehicle for improv. I mean, as much as there was singing, if you listen to Live at Fillmore, it's about the playing. So that, in a way, is really kind of cool, because that sparked me when I got into high school to also want to be a jazz guy. And I played in high school jazz band and did that. But, you know, that influence was okay. Where other straighter pop music was less, as great as the Beatles were and the Stones were, they didn't really jam.
They didn't use
Not as much.
They didn't use improvisation.
No, they did,
Yeah.
but at a much more limited level. I mean, I suppose when you see those bands live, but the Allman Brothers and Clapton, that's what that was all about. You know, jamming it out. You know, the Doors, those groups, those guys stretched it.
Well,
yeah.
like I said, it's totally in the pocket where I'm concerned, because
it's
I
fun.
was right there with you in those days. So I'm looking forward to this, and it's going to be a great night in Norridge Park for us to have the Beaker brothers.
Yeah,
and
wear some tie-dye and come on down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wear the tie-dye, but no smoking. No smoking.
Oh, no
in
smoking.
Norridge
No,
Park.
no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, smoke-free Iowa. That's against the rules.
No.
So looking forward to a great one, Steve. Thanks for taking a few minutes to
thanks for
talk
having
to me tonight, and looking forward to ripping it up next week.
All right. Thank you very much.